He woke up before sunrise, the same way he did every morning. The ranch had a rhythm of its own, and James knew it well. The cattle needed checking, the horses needed feeding, and the fences needed watching. Life was hard, but it was honest, and he preferred it that way. He lived alone on a wide stretch of land miles away from the nearest town, and most days passed quietly. But this morning felt different, though he didn't know why yet. As he stepped out of the wooden cabin, the air was cool, and the sky carried soft shades of pink and gold. He took a slow breath, feeling the peace of early dawn settle around him. The creek behind his home was especially calm at this hour. It ran clear and steady, and sometimes he walked there just to clear his mind before the day started. But he wasn't expecting anyone to be there. James saddled his horse and moved toward the back field. From the moment he reached the fence line, he felt something unusual, an uneasy stillness he couldn't explain. The birds weren't chirping as loudly, and the horses kept turning their ears toward the creek. He narrowed his eyes, thinking maybe a stray animal had wandered too close. He decided to check. He walked slowly, without making noise, his boots pressing into the grass. The closer he got to the creek, the more he sensed that someone was there, someone who didn't belong. His ranch was far from any travel route, and visitors were rare. But he kept moving forward, careful and alert. When he reached the tall bushes near the creek, he gently pushed a branch aside. That was when he saw her. A young Apache woman stood at the edge of the creek, the morning light settling softly on her like a gentle glow. She wasn't in the water, but kneeling beside it, washing dust from her arms and face. Her long black hair reached her waist, falling over her shoulders like a dark river. Her skin was warm-toned, glowing even in the early light. She didn't see him. She was too focused, breathing carefully, as if she were exhausted or recovering from something. James's heart paused for a moment. Not because he expected anyone there, but because he knew immediately she was on the run. Her clothes were worn, the edges torn from travel. She had no supplies with her. No horse, no blanket, only a small, leather pouch tied around her waist. Her posture told him she was tired in a way that only comes from long days of running. There were faint marks on her wrists, old and faded, but clear enough for him to understand. Something had happened to her. Something she was trying to escape. He stepped back carefully, not wanting to frighten her. She seemed alone, vulnerable, unaware that anyone was watching. But before he could turn away, a dry branch under his boot cracked loudly. She spun around instantly. Her eyes locked onto him, sharp, alert, full of fear and strength at the same time. For a long moment, neither of them moved. James raised his hands slowly, showing he meant no harm. "It's all right," he said softly. "I didn't come to scare you." She stared at him with tense suspicion. Her chest rose and fell quickly as she tried to decide if he was a threat. Her fingers moved toward the small knife at her side, but she didn't draw it yet. She waited. James kept his voice low. "You're safe here." She didn't answer. He could tell she was trying to read him, trying to judge his intentions. She looked young, maybe 19 or 20, but her eyes carried a depth that belonged to someone who had seen too much. She stood straight, proud, even though she was tired. "You're far from your people," he said gently. "Are you hurt? Do you need help?" Her lips pressed into a firm line. She didn't trust him. She didn't trust anyone, he could see that clearly. Slowly, she shook her head, keeping her stance defensive. But her legs trembled just slightly. She had been running longer than her body could handle. James didn't move closer. Instead, he took a small step back to show respect. "If you don't want to talk, that's fine. But I won't turn you away. You can rest here." For the first time, she blinked with surprise. No rancher would say that, not when rumors had spread in town about Apache fugitives hiding in the hills. People were tense, quick to accuse. But James saw only a young woman trying to survive. Whatever she had gone through, she didn't deserve more fear. She hesitated, unsure whether she should stay or flee. Her eyes studied him again, his clothes, his hands, the softness in his voice. Finally, she spoke, her voice low and controlled. "Why? Help me." Her accent was gentle, her words careful, but her suspicion was deep. She looked ready to run at the first sign of danger. James took a slow breath. "Because you look like you need help," he answered simply, "and because no one deserves to be left alone when they're scared." She didn't respond, but her shoulders dropped slightly, just enough to show she wasn't as afraid as before. She looked around the creek, then back at him. For a moment, she seemed unsure if she was dreaming or if this man was truly offering kindness. "What's your name?" he asked softly. She hesitated again before replying. "Nayeli." The name suited her. It was soft but strong, like someone who carried courage even when she was tired. "I'm James," he said. "My home is just up the hill. You can rest by the fire if you want. I won't touch you. I won't ask you to explain anything. Just rest." Her eyes softened for the first time, but she still didn't move. He realized she was afraid of stepping onto his land without knowing if she could trust him. So he did something few ranchers would ever do. He turned around and walked a few steps away, giving her space. "You can follow," he said gently. "Or not. It's your choice. But you're safe here." He started walking toward the cabin. He didn't look back right away. He wanted her to decide freely. After several slow seconds, he heard soft footsteps behind him. She had chosen to follow. James felt a quiet relief. Not triumph, not pride, just relief that she trusted him enough to stay close. He kept his pace steady, not fast enough to pressure her, not slow enough to draw attention. When they reached the cabin, he opened the door for her without stepping inside first, showing he wasn't trying to trap her. She peeked in carefully, her eyes scanning the room. It was simple wooden table, small fireplace, folded blankets, and a single bed. Nothing threatening. She stepped inside cautiously, keeping distance between them. James lit the fire and set a kettle of water to warm. "You can sit by the fire," he said gently. "You look cold." Nayeli looked at the fire as if it were a memory she hadn't felt in a long time. Slowly, she sat near it, keeping her hands close to the warmth. Her breathing softened as her body relaxed, even if her mind didn't fully trust yet. "You've been running for days, haven't you?" James said softly. She didn't answer, but she didn't deny it either. James didn't ask anything more. He knew trust took time. Instead, he poured warm water into a wooden cup and placed it near her. She hesitated, then took it carefully. "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice was quiet, but it carried something deeper, an emotion she was trying not to show. For the first time since she arrived, she let herself breathe. And that was when James understood something clearly. This wasn't just a stranger he found by the creek. This was a young woman running from danger, carrying fear and strength in equal measure. And now, without expecting it, her safety had become his responsibility. James watched Nayeli sit by the fire as the warmth slowly spread through her tired body. She held the wooden cup in both hands, taking small sips, as if she wasn't sure she deserved comfort. The quiet inside the small cabin was soft, but it wasn't an uncomfortable silence. James knew she needed peace more than anything else, so he let her sit without asking questions. Outside, the sun slowly rose, bringing more light through the small window. The ranch was waking up, but inside the cabin, the moment felt still, as if time paused just for her. After a few minutes, Nayeli spoke again. "You said, 'I am safe here.'" Her voice was unsure, as if she still struggled to believe it. "Yes," James replied softly. "Why?" she asked again, this time with a trace of emotion. Why do you trust me? James thought for a moment. Sometimes you don't need a reason to help someone. Sometimes you just know they deserve kindness. Then, he looked at her gently. And, you looked like someone who needed someone to stand on her side. Nayeli lowered her eyes. Many people do not think like that. I'm not many people, he answered quietly. She breathed in deeply, as if his words gave her a small sense of strength. But there was still something heavy on her heart. Something she wasn't ready to share. Do you want food? James asked. You look hungry. She hesitated again, then nodded. So he prepared a simple meal, bread, dried meat, and warm tea. When he placed it in front of her, she looked almost overwhelmed. She took a bite slowly, her hands shaking slightly from exhaustion. For a moment, her eyes softened with gratitude. Thank you, she whispered again. James smiled slightly. You don't need to thank me. Rest first. Talk later, only if you want to. Nayeli finished her food and leaned back a little, her body relaxing more than before. But she still kept her distance from the bed, choosing to sit near the fire instead. James respected that. He sat across the room, giving her space, repairing a broken leather strap from his saddle to keep himself busy. For a while, neither of them spoke. The crackling fire filled the quiet room. Outside, the wind carried the scent of grass, and a few birds called from the trees. Finally, Nayeli looked up. Her voice was soft but steady. People are looking for me. James didn't react with surprise. He had guessed as much. Still, hearing her confirm it made him look up slowly. Are they close? He asked. She shook her head. Not yet, but they will not stop. Why? Did something happen? Nayeli wrapped her arms around herself as if trying to hold her courage together. Her expression wasn't full of fear anymore, just deep sadness. I ran away, she said quietly, from someone who wanted to control my life. Someone who did not care about what I wanted. She took a slow breath. I could not stay. I had to escape. James didn't interrupt. He didn't push her for more details. That small amount was enough to understand she was fleeing a situation she found unbearable. You made the right choice, he said gently. She looked at him with surprise. You don't even know me. You don't need to know someone's whole story to see they're hurting, he replied softly. And you don't owe me any explanation. Not unless you want to give it. 2. Nayeli looked into the fire again, her eyes shining with a mixture of relief and hesitation. You are different, she whispered. James didn't respond with pride. He simply nodded once. She continued. I was afraid of everyone. I thought if anyone saw me, they would send me back. I thought I would never find a place to stop running. She took another shaky breath. But this place feels safe. I promise it is, he said. His voice sounded firmer than before, not harsh, but protective. Nayeli watched him as if she were seeing something rare in him. Someone who didn't judge. Someone who didn't want anything from her. For the first time, she allowed herself to settle deeper into the blanket around her shoulders. Around midday, James stepped outside to tend to the animals. Before leaving, he told her, if you hear anyone, or feel unsafe, you can hide behind the wooden shelf. No one will see you. She nodded, and he stepped out. While he worked, he kept glancing toward the cabin. Not because he didn't trust her, but because he didn't want her to feel abandoned. Each time he saw the thin line of smoke rising from the chimney, he felt a strange sense of responsibility growing in his chest. By early afternoon, he finished his chores and returned. When he walked inside, he saw something that made him pause. Nayeli was cleaning the cabin. She wasn't doing it out of obligation. She looked like someone who wanted to repay kindness with any small act she could manage. She carefully folded the blankets, wiped the table with a cloth, and even swept the floor with the old broom. You don't have to do that, James said gently. She looked up with a faint smile, small, tired, but real. You helped me. I want to help too. James didn't stop her. He just smiled back and let her continue. When she finished, she sat again by the fire, looking calmer than before. James sat on the opposite chair. You can stay here as long as you need, he said quietly. No one will take you away. Her eyes widened slightly at his offer. Truly? Truly. For the first time, she looked fully relieved. A soft sigh left her lips, and she put a hand over her heart. I thought I would never hear words like that, she said softly. James nodded. You're not alone now. The rest of the afternoon passed peacefully. Nayeli rested more, and at times she stared out the window at the fields, looking as if she was seeing freedom for the first time. She asked James small questions about the ranch, the horses, the creek. She didn't laugh, but her voice softened more each time she spoke. By evening, the sunlight turned golden, stretching across the land like a warm blanket. James stepped outside again and saw something that made him pause. Hoofprints. Fresh ones. Someone had been near the property. He didn't want Nayeli to see his concern, so he quietly returned inside. But she noticed the change in his expression immediately. What is wrong? She asked. James didn't lie. Someone rode through the edges of the ranch earlier today. Her face tightened with worry, and she stood quickly. They are looking for me. Maybe, he said calmly. But they didn't come near the cabin. They didn't know you are here. Nayeli's breathing grew fast. They will come back. James stepped closer. Not too close, but enough to reassure her. Listen to me. If anyone comes, I won't let them near you. You're safe. She stared at him, searching his face to see if he meant those words. He did. Every one of them. Slowly, she sat down again, still anxious but trusting him more than before. Night fell softly over the ranch. The stars appeared bright, filling the sky like scattered silver dust. James lit a lantern and placed it on the small table. Nayeli wrapped herself in the blanket and leaned against the wall, her eyes half closed from exhaustion. You can sleep, he said gently. I'll keep watch. She shook her head at first, not wanting him to stay awake just for her, but her body was too tired to argue. She finally lay down, near the fire, curling into the blanket. Before drifting off, she whispered, You saved me today. James didn't answer. He just watched over her quietly. As she fell asleep, her breathing calm and peaceful, James realized something important. He hadn't simply found a fugitive girl at the creek. He had found someone who needed a place to breathe again. Someone who had been running too long. Someone who trusted him despite her fears. And now, he felt a responsibility he had never felt before, a strong, steady desire to protect her. Not because she asked, but because she deserved a chance at safety and dignity. Outside, the night grew colder. But inside the small cabin, a quiet warmth remained. Nayeli slept safely for the first time in many days, and James, sitting near the fire, knew he would not let anything disturb that peace. Not tonight. Not ever.